Hi guys, beloved greetings from the Sacred Valley again. So today I will continue on the topic of the nature of evil. And those of you who didn't see the first part, I recommend watching it. But just as a little disclaimer, I'm not doing this to try and somehow arouse some kind of fear or separation amidst any of you. I'm doing this because I feel it's absolutely essential to be able to recognize evil, so that we don't unconsciously perpetuate it, so that we don't unconsciously participate in it. So today's topic is going to be fear-based mind control, because that is one of the tools that the evil likes to use against us. It's a classic method in the dark art of war, to manipulate people through fear. And if we look around, currently what's being done, what kind of messages the mainstream media is spewing out there, we can recognize that it's absolutely laced with fear, with sensationalism and with doom, outright doom. This new psychological weapon of computer-generated prophecies of future is really working quite terrifyingly, because for some reason when we see a graph, we forget that it's coded by an individual who may have an agenda, and we just take it as truth. So there are these computer-generated false projections, false prophecies of future, and we see that, and it threatens our very existence. We go into a state of fear. And what happens when we go into that state of fear is we're no longer able to perceive reality from this holistic perspective, of taking into account different aspects of reality, questioning and critically thinking what is happening. But instead, our consciousness contracts and we fall into this fight or flight mode, which is a reaction. It's triggered from that reptilian brain. So it's a very archaic, primitive way of being when we are in a state of fear. So of course, if there is a perpetuated feed of fear from the TV, can you imagine what kind of thinking people fall to? I mean, and it's the end of rational thinking. This is the end of compassion as well, because you'd be surprised how far people are willing to go to protect their lives. So all they need to do is trigger that fear of death, and perfectly good-hearted people will let go of their morality in order to fight for their own existence. What we have to understand is at the core of any fear is fear of death. Fear of death. So if you haven't sat down with yourself and done some soul searching and really thought and sat with what death entails for you, then that fear of death is the perfect entryway for psychological manipulation, fear-based mind control. So I invite each of you to sit down with yourself and look at that. Because by overcoming the fear of death and making peace with death, you will truly find inner peace. And by understanding death, you will understand life. You will come to truly value your existence here and to make the most of it. Because if you're no longer governed by fear, you will have the freedom to express your courage, to truly express your divine purpose on this plane. If you continue to live your life running away and escaping from imminent death, which is coming for each and every one of us in different ways, then we are not truly living anymore in the true sense of the word. I can share with you that the way I came face to face with death was through the tragic death of my first partner. This happened in 2006. So it's a while ago, but it was so crushing, so painful for me that I had to look for God. Because no amount of any kind of psychological support or emotional support was doing it for me. I was in absolute despair. So I began to look for God, and I found God. And I tell you a secret, you will never get to know God unless you look for him yourself. And when you've met God, it no longer requires any belief because you've gotten to know him. Knowledge does not require belief. So when I got to know God personally, and when I got to connect with that celestial realm of pure love, of infinite mercy, of infinite joy, I lost all fear of death. Because I know now that death is not the end of anything. Simply my physical vehicle, which is carrying my spirit on this plane, will die. But me, my consciousness, my life will continue. It's just a transitioning from one plane of being to another. So I really invite you to commune with the divine, and you will find inner peace and profound meaning to your existence. Of course, the evil is trying to totally sever any connection that we have to the divine. So they have created all these different kinds of false constructs. I will get into that in the next video. But we have to remember who we are so that we don't allow ourselves to be enslaved by those who claim that we are not that which we are. We are made in the image of God. So if you imagine how a godly being lives, they do not live in fear. They do not live dependent on others. They do not live by exploiting, stealing, abusing, and murdering others or other beings. No, their purpose is to protect, to guide, to love, to care. That's our true self. That's who we are. But that's what evil is constantly trying to make us forget. And one of the ways that they're trying to block our true expression, our true potential as humanity, is through fear. And you would be surprised to know how many people are actually afraid of freedom. I'll give you an example. If you look at the word anarchy, what comes to mind? Chaos, right? Was it chaos? Majority of the people will think of chaos, absolute mayhem, destruction, arson, people thieving and stealing and destroying places. That's anarchy in so many people's minds. Which is interesting because that's by design. That's absolutely by design because anarchy is actually, it has nothing to do with that. Anarchy, the word comes from Greek. Archon means ruler or master. And an means without. So anarchy is without ruler, without master. So it means somebody who's not a slave. Somebody who is sovereign, meaning they govern the realm of their own self, of their own lives. But because we fear this anarchy, we are in constant psychological dependence of those who we believe we need in order to govern us. We believe somehow that we are such savages, such like horrible creatures that if we didn't have that oppressive structure of power, of people who can control us through coercion and violence, that we would somehow destroy each other and everything. That's absolute nonsense. That's so untrue. I'm sure that many of you, if you look around to the people in your life, you see wonderful people, people who are truly caring. And if you imagine that we could all just express our purpose here and that we could just focus on creating harmonious ways to live together, that we could do that. We could 100% absolutely do that. Yeah, it would take trial and error. It would take us a lot of effort to co-create a harmonious existence together. But if we are not ever allowed that chance, it means we are in infinite enslavement. We are bound to an existence which is not who we truly are. One of the great teachers of natural law, a man who I've learned so much from, Mark Passio, said these words. Courage is not the absence of fear. True courage is right action in spite of fear. Now, I want that to really ring deep in your heart. And to know that it's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel fear in a dangerous situation, which is what we are facing as a collective. But that we have it within ourselves to respond to it with consciousness. Fear has value too, you know. It is a signal, it's a communication when something is wrong. True, genuine fear has meaning to us. This illusory, this infiltrated thought form of false threat has no meaning to us. And that is something we have to be able to purge from our consciousness. So if you're feeling fear right now because you're at risk of being evicted, because you can't pay your rent, because they have taken away your livelihood, you can use that fear to actually do something. You can get in touch with somebody. You can use it as a fuel to go from fear to faith and say, no, I will do something. I will fight for my life. We all have equal right to life, equal right to exist. We are all essential. And this is not what the media is saying, but this is the truth. So I wish you all so much strength and faith in this time and courage. It is a scary time, but knowing who we truly are, where we come from, what is our divine potential, we can handle this. We can handle this. I send you much love. And if you have any questions, if you want to comment something, I'm really happy to respond. And the next video, I'm going to go deeper into the subject of psychological warfare.